Hello, Sad Nation, and welcome to another episode of our Agents of Change series, presented by State Farm and SAD. We're all excited that summer is finally here, but we know that this season is one of the deadliest for teen drivers. As young people take to the roadways, we want to give parents the tips and the knowledge they need to keep their families safe. We're thrilled to have an all-star panel with us today. Please join me in welcoming our Agents of Change. Vladan Trifunovic of California. From Colorado, we have Kendra Grice. John Kasak from Florida. From Pennsylvania, we have Pat Dickey. Last but not least, we have Adiel Garza from Washington. Welcome, everyone. In this episode, we're talking about general tips and tricks for teens and their parents. While there is driver's ed for new drivers, there really has never been a guide for helping parents navigate the rules of the road and coaching their new driver to safety. We're going to explore what teens and parents can do to establish a culture of traffic safety together. Vladan, let's start with you. How can teens and parents work together to create a culture that keeps one another safe?
Thank you. And such an important factor with driving, it's a privilege to drive. And one of the things that parents can always do is remind their teen drivers what safety is. And so much of it has to do with the mindset when you get behind the wheel of a car. Every time we do that, we have a decision. We're going to be safe or not safe. Every action that we take can affect someone else on the roadway. And I think as motorists, we have to make sure that those decisions are the best for everyone, not just ourselves. If parents talk about roadway safety in terms of being selfless, thinking of others and their families and their safety, I think we see a shift in the entire culture. Most especially, I think, doing by example, leading by example. Put the phone away, look ahead, be aware of workers on the road, bicyclists, other drivers.
Yeah, parents should establish thinking about the next right decision and that there's consequences to every decision. There's always going to be things that are competing for our attention. Is it the right thing to do to answer that phone call? Is it the right thing to do to go a little bit faster just to show off for your friends? And obviously the answer is no. If we can help teens think about the decisions that are in front of them, we're going to shift that culture. Distracted driving is extremely dangerous, but most drivers still do it. And you know why? We prioritize those forces competing for our attention over safety.
If I could tell you how many times I've seen younger kids come in here and we do our program with them for Steer Clear, and what we see afterwards is so many of them go pick up their friend right after they've left and they have an accident because they're not paying attention. They're distracted. Their friends distracted them. Their young drivers are just learning to drive. And then boom, they have an accident because their friends tell them, oh, look at this, look at that, or there's that guy you like, or there's that truck you want to buy. They take their focus off the road. Kids need to be focused on the road when they're first driving.
And John, to your points, I think it'd be helpful if we took a look at that 500-pound gorilla that's in the room, and that's seatbelts. Now, I'm a high school volunteer coach, and I constantly drive a school van with a bunch of students in it. And it amazes me how many times I have to remind everybody sitting in back of me to buckle up. Now, it sounds like something so many of us would know to do automatically, but according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Association, last year, 50% of teens who lost their lives in our nation's roadways weren't buckled up. I mean, it's one simple act that can save thousands of lives every year. I mean, it's an automotive safety feature that's been around for generations, but it would seem lately that teens are just starting to not wear their seatbelt for some reason. So I think generally together, if teens wear their seatbelts, and by the way, parents also, because what we do as parents speaks so loud that what we say our students and children don't hear. Well, if we're all wearing seatbelts on every trip, we're going to end up keeping each other safer. And we can start to hopefully reverse this disturbing seatbelt usage trend in a real positive way.
So my part is talking about expectations for parents and also for the teen driver. And one of the things we like to do is always invite the teens to come into the office and just discuss the importance and the significance of being able to have that privilege to drive. And I tell teens all the time, it isn't a right. It's not something you're given. Your parents can revoke it. They can turn in your license. But also you're driving around a 2,000-pound piece of metal that can cause serious damage. And I have 2 young boys, and I said, if you hit my kid, if they're riding their bike and you're not paying attention, I'm sorry, but we're going to go after everything your parents have worked their lives for, your future and everything else. So, it's fun. I remember being 16 and asking my parents, hey, I'll go get milk, whatever you need, I'll drive, I'll do it. And it's fun, but also it's a responsibility, and as well as phone use. I tell kids all the time, 90% of the accidents we see are people on their phone or distracted. So put your phone in the glove box, throw it in the back seat, and know that you're responsible for the people in your car. So if your friends are being jerks and they're not paying attention, well, that's on you. I mean, in the event of an accident, you're not gonna be able to turn around and say, well, my buddy in the back seat was distracting me. I'm sorry, that's not gonna work. I coach high school wrestling here in Moses Lake, and unfortunately, we had a teen driver pass away from drunk driving. And it was about 150 yards from where he was. And, that impact has generational effects. The kid that was in the car is still dealing with the turmoil of his best friend dying next to him. And, I think kids don't think about this, but I hit it home hard because I was directly involved in that relationship. And I just tell kids, I mean, at that point, if you need somebody, you can always call on somebody. And I'd rather you call me at 2 a.m. if I'm your coach than to make that decision. And there's tons of people out there that would do the same thing. So just knowing that you're driving something that can cause generational issues. And so just really hitting home and expressing that. I mean, Steer Clear, we invite them all in. And I tell parents, I mean, we don't add your teen unless they come in the office, because it's that important to us here to talk about it. Because like I said, every one of us probably knows somebody who's passed away from drunk driving. And like I said, it's just generational impact of those decisions, and they're lifelong.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. These are all excellent points. It seems like we have a great deal of work to do in helping teens understand the challenges of driving. What's one specific action that teens and their parents can do this summer to talk about traffic safety together?
Well, COVID had an effect on everybody this year. Nationwide, it's been the same, and driving is no different. We've seen fewer and fewer people on the road, fewer opportunities for teens to get their licenses on time. DMVs have been shut down, all sorts of things. So there's always a reason why our experience level is going to be reduced. But as a parent, we have a great opportunity to help teach our teen drivers. Let them drive as often as possible. Get in the passenger seat, drive with them calmly, critique them, show them what safety is, and let them know the relevance of being mentally there, being in charge, what kind of tool they're using. And it's a very dangerous one if used improperly. There's also a ton of additional things that parents can do. If you're going to go shopping for a graduation dress, drive cross town. Make an event of it. Let your teen be the one behind the wheel. But beyond that as well, there are tremendous opportunities out there with programs that teach advanced driver safety. I'm proud to be associated with one called Brakes by Doug Herbert. This is a free program nationwide and allows parents to get their teen drivers in training situations for 4 or 5 hours a day that will give them that much better experience. Utilize all those tools. They're not that hard to find, and even within your own household, you can find a way to get them on the road more. More experience will result in better drivers.
Another often overlooked practice is checking for safety recalls. Summer is a great time for teens and parents to learn this together. So a safety recall is issued by a manufacturer when a safety defect is discovered. Many dealerships will keep you in the loop about these sort of notices, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't just check on your own too. You can check the National Highway Traffic Safety website. for these safety recalls. The website address is nhtsa.gov, and you can see a current list of recalls on your car. You just get your VIN, enter your VIN, and they all come up. It's really easy.
Summer is a perfect time to talk to your teen driver about maintenance of your vehicle. It's often overlooked, but maintenance, not just regular oil changes and checkups on your vehicle, but making sure that you have they know how to wear on the tires. Make sure they know what to look for on the wear on the tires. When is it time to replace the tires? What noise, when your brakes are squeaking, that may mean it's time for your brakes to be replaced. Go through all the common things and sit down with them and go through the owner's manual and take a look through it and make sure that you're going through it so they understand where things are, how to replace a fuse if one blows, so that their vehicle's safe and they're not having accidents while they're driving down the road, or not getting distracted or having problems while they're out there and getting stuck somewhere. It's also good to have an emergency supply in the car, so in case something happens, they know where their jumper cables are, or maybe radiator fluid, things that they need to have in the vehicle just in case. It's always good to have those things ready to go in case, and they should know how to change a tire. One of the things I always did with my kids is made sure they know how to change a tire, daughter included, because she needs to know how to take that tire off if she's on the side of the road by herself. So make sure you always do that and check them once a month. Make sure you've got everything that's replenished in the kit.
Great points, John. And it triggers in my mind one last thought as it relates to roadside assistance. If your insurance company or your parents have a roadside assistance, it'd be helpful for the students to have that phone number in their cell phone. First call is to mom or dad, but second call is typically to the roadside assistance. So it'd be good to have that in their cell phone when they're in the car, admittedly, in the event of that moment. But one of the things that I think we need to focus, as I've listened to the discussion, is around the reality of the role of the parents in the conversation with young drivers. It's natural that teens at this stage in their life are typically looking to find their independence, get their own footing. And this is a reason why many of us as parents are willing to provide them both a driver's license and, again, a 1-ton piece of motorized metal. It's part of a process to help them become more independent. But to show them that we trust them is one thing, but to that which much is given, generally much will be expected as well. With added independence becomes accountability, or accountability comes from that. And I think that as parents in particular, we need to be able to have that conversation where we can talk to teens, and I emphasize not at teens, and basically have a discussion, letting them know that smart decisions have long-term rewards, but the bad decisions in particular, when steering a car, can have really, really lasting consequences. I regularly, as an insurance agent, invite my newly licensed drivers or permitted drivers in with their parents. More often, we've been doing it via video meetings because of COVID, but generally before they sit for their licensing exam, I want to have that visit. And during that meeting, I'll directly show them, we'll talk about the emotional impact of bad decisions, but we'll also talk about the financial impact. I will show them what the added cost for adding them as a driver to their parents' policy looks like compared to what the folks were paying before they received their license. I'll also show them the added discounts for them as a student keeping up good grades, taking a formal driver's education course, and finally completing at State Farm what we call our Steer Clear program. It's a training program that's available for free on their cell phone before they get licensed. The savings associated to the new driver and their parents as a result can be upwards of 40% annually if all three of those good behaviors are embraced by a new teen driver. And that's real money where I come from, so we make sure that they know the numbers. Now, to the other side, I'll also show them what the economic cost is of bad decisions or bad situations. I'll run them the financial impact of just a couple of at-fault accidents by a new driver on the car. And in a short period of time, they'll see pretty quickly that there is a significant increase in the insurance cost that their parents is going to have to bear, not just for that year, but for at least 3 years moving forward. I think most parents, and I think truthfully most students, And teenagers appreciate that level of transparency. And I think when everyone is in agreement in terms of the added freedom and the added responsibility and what the costs associated are, everybody walks away from the table with a clear understanding of where we as a group move forward together.
Lastly, we're going to talk about sleep and how important it is, even during the summer months when our schedules change and when we're no longer held to be in class at a certain time. And parents generally let my curfew go a little longer, but also how important it is to get that sleep and making sure that we're getting 8 to 10 hours, because when we're not, our brains become mushy. I know mine does. When I stay up too late, I'm sure a 16, 17-year-old does even more. So being responsible and making sure parents are aware of, hey, are you feeling all right? Can you go to the store when you come home? Make sure you're feeling good. And if you need to pull over and take a nap. I've done that many times. Even as a kid, I do it now. I can't drive that far. I'm not a good driver at night. So, just being responsible and being aware that, being impaired from sleep is just as impaired a lot of times to being under the influence or things of that nature. So just being aware is the biggest thing. And I tell parents, it's your responsibility to be responsible for your teens. If something were to happen, it can fall directly on you for those financial and economic decisions that can come forth from that. So when it comes to sleep, like I said, just be aware that kids need sleep. When they don't get enough of it, their decision making, their reaction, their foresight becomes impaired, and they're just not as experienced and trained as an adult to know what that looks like. So it's a responsibility of the parents to be upfront and talk to them about that. So
definitely. As always, panelists, you've given us a lot to think about today. As we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you would give to teen drivers as they face the coming summer months?
Look out for the other people next to you. Be aware of what's going on. Have an understanding that the responsibility is yours and yours alone once you're behind that wheel of that car. Everything that you do from the moment you step behind that steering wheel has an effect on other people. And as other panelists have mentioned today, it's long lasting. It can be a generational change. Have fun, enjoy it, but be responsible.
My advice would be to set your phone on do not disturb automatically when you're driving. There is a setting in every phone now, every smartphone, that you can set that it can pick up when you're driving and you don't get your text messages that come through, you don't get your social media updates that come through. 1 out of 4 car crashes today are caused by texting while driving, and it's not worth risking your life over checking that text message. So turn it on, do not disturb, it can wait.
If you're out with your friends and you're out having a good time this summer, don't get behind the wheel if you've had alcohol. In Florida, I don't know about elsewhere, but in Florida, it only takes a point. I think it's like 0.02 instead of 0.08, it's 0.02. So you don't have to have much alcohol in your breath at all to get a DUI. So just don't do it. It's not worth it. It's not going to make your life any better. It's definitely going to make it worse. So just don't do it.
If I could reach into every car with a young driver that we insure and put a picture of their adult in their life, be it grandma, mom, dad, Aunt Tilly, just put a picture of them on the dashboard on the passenger side. I'd want them to drive like their mom, dad, or loved one adult was in the car. Because when we have that moment of self-realization that I'm accountable to the people who love me, who I love, we tend to look at things a little differently. Rash decisions are measured twice before we go down that road, so to speak. And the only other parting thought I'll give is nothing good happens in an automobile after midnight. Plain and simple, nothing good.
And the last thing I would say is have fun, enjoy the summer, enjoy the freedom that driving gives you, because it is a lot of fun. I remember being 16, like I said, and just loving picking up my friends and doing things, but also remember with that becomes a lot of responsibility for not only you, but for everybody in your car. You just don't know what those decisions and those bad decisions can have. Like I said, there's people dealing with things that happened 20, 30 years ago because of one bad decision of drinking or driving too fast or reckless driving. And just remember that, because you don't know who's on the other side of that and what that can lead to. So be careful.
Agents, these are great tips all around. I again want to thank our esteemed panel from State Farm. And of course, you, Sad Nation, our followers, for helping us share the rules of the road as we celebrate what we hope to be the safest summer ever. That's all the time we have for now. Be safe, every trip, every time.